Welcome to this video about, or this session about guitar techniques, because what I just did there was actually not that hard. If you really want to have a tool in the fastest way possible whereby you can play fast, then why not go for some techniques that are easier to get to than alternate picking or economy picking or something like that. Because with tapping, we can do arpeggios, we can do fast runs, we can do scale runs, we can do everything. If you just take your left hand here and just add the index finger of the right hand, you suddenly get an enormous amount of stretching ability on the fretboard. And of course you have some new challenges. The strings make a lot of noise when you try to pick like that or play like that. You have to tap with your first finger, and we got different challenges there. And I've built some great methods of overcoming these challenges. And so what if you took this kind of playing, tapping, and then said, or legato combined with tapping, and then really went into it and became very, very, very good at it. And the truth is here that you can develop this ability like in 1/10 of the time it takes you to just develop one simple alternate picking lick to perfection. So for now, let's go to the close-up video and let's look at the first sequence that I'm going to show you. So, in this example, I've chosen the C minor pentatonic, or the C blues scale, in the first position. So we're in the 8th fret here. So you go tap with the 4th finger in the 11th fret, tap with your right hand first finger, and then pull it off again, and then pull this one off. That's the first little bit. So again, 4th finger, 11th fret, tapping, then tapping, first finger, right hand, 13th fret, pull it off again, and pull this one off. So basically, you're going up from this one, and then down from this one again. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 down to this. And the next thing you do is you just tap this 13th, the note in the 13th fret on the high E string again, and release it down to, not release, but pull off down to the 8th fret again. So you go, and then, so that's the whole melody. And then you just repeat it, and the second time around, you have that string sounding out. So it's very easy for you to go tap that note again with your 4th finger and then go. Let me play the whole thing slowly, but fast enough for you to get the melody in your head. No, sorry. And that's the whole thing, almost. The rest is details, but what you do with this then is just sit down, because this is the whole run encapsulated into one string exercise. And if you can do the one string exercise, going from string to string is going to be relatively easy, or even just easy. So you go. And practice this with a metronome. Say, whatever tempo. I have a hard time playing metronome with my mouth here, but and then you just play this over and over and over again. And what you then do when you shift strings is you just play the exact same thing. So you went from, right, that was the whole thing. Then instead of starting over on this string with your 4th finger, you're just starting over on the B string with this finger. And because the scale looks like it does, it's the exact same frets on the B string. So now you have 2 strings. You can go, and then 2, right? So instead of staying on one string, you're just going. And that's a lick in itself there, and you can start moving that, you know, vertically, but just going for the next string, or you can move it up, but we'll just do that in a second. So let's look at the next string, because now we've played. Then the next string, you find the notes in the 8th, the 10th, and the 12th fret here in the key of C minor. And so these are the notes on the G string. So we have the 8th, the 10th, and the 12th fret, just 2 whole tone intervals here. And you do the same thing, but now you tap with the 3rd finger. So you go, and then you do the same thing, but with this instead of that. So you go, next string, next string. Then on the next string you have the 8th, the 10th, and the 13th fret instead of the 12th. So we go tapping with the 3rd finger again in the 10th fret. And you do the same thing in the same frets on the A string. And then you can do it in the 8th, the 11th, and the 13th fret on the low E string. Just the same frets as on the high E string. And then you can practice going up again. So you can take it back and forth, it looks the same way, because it's a one-string sequence, really, that you're just moving up and down. So let me play that, just the whole thing slowly. Or semi-slowly here. Sorry. So, very effective, and not that hard to practice. If you start on one string and just go, and get that down first, and then go for the other string. And what you do with this, of course, if you're new to it, is that you first use the metronome, practice it in time, so you have a da 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 click, 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 click. So it gets the sound like click, click. See if you can play it in time, so you don't want certain parts of this to be faster than other parts. You don't want to practice like that. You have to practice in time. Do not do this. That is just a recipe for disaster, and you're not practicing anything when you're doing it. You're just practicing becoming a very bad, out-of-time player. So don't do that. Instead, use the metronome. Click, click, ba da 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 da. So in other words, this finger here should be totally steady. Da 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 da. Totally steady, rhythmically. For the actual run that I showed you in the previous video, we're in the key of A blues instead. But we're using a 3-note per string shape. So you have these 3 notes up here, E, G, and A, and we're in the 12th, the 15th, and the 17th fret on the high E string. Now those are the notes there, so just mark those out in your mind. Minor third and a whole tone interval from the 12th fret on the high E string. Then on the other string, and this is the whole shape that repeats itself down the neck, you have 13th, 15th, and 16th. So you have that little bluesy note there. If you want to play strictly pentatonic, you can just replace this note in the 16th fret with the one in the 17th fret, and you have no blue note. It also makes it the same frets that you're tapping here, which makes it a little bit easier. So, what I'm doing there is the same thing. I go something like that anyway. And all I do then is just do the same thing, but 1 octave lower. And that would look like this. On the G string, you have a note in the 9th, the 12th, and the 14th fret. So that's the same thing as up here, only one octave higher. And then right here, on the D string, you have a note in the 10th, 12th, and 13th fret. And that's the exact same shape here as up here. They relate to each other in the exact same way. What you do to get this right is that you mark out the place where you're shifting strings. So in your mind's eye, so you go, and then you mark that spot, that 12th fret there on the G string. You just mark that out in your mind's eye, so you can go, and then you know you're going to hit that note right there in the 12th fret with that finger, and that's how you change and go back to another or go down to another position where you can do the same thing. Of course, it repeats itself on the lower 2 strings here, and that would be on the E and A string in the 7th, the 10th, and the 12th fret. And then you have the 11th, the 10th, and the 8th fret. But just look at the tabs, and then I move down to the A again there. So that's basically the sequence. But then I add just a little thing to get this whole thing started. Instead of just starting there, you add a note. You add the first note on the string. So you just add that, and you can pick that. You can come down from that. You can go. So that's where you start, actually. But I didn't include that because that would mess up the logic and the simplicity of the sequence there. A little way to expand it is to move your first finger in the right hand. So you go, and then instead of tapping that, you tap this. And that makes your hand go back and forth like that. So you go. So instead of having that anchor point or that pedal tone up there, you move it so you get a sequence that sounds like this. But that's another challenge, and I recommend that you start by learning that sequence first, and then going. Because of course, when you're jumping back and forth like that, you risk not hitting the actual note, and you can't really anchor your hand. Because that would be logical to me, just anchor my hand and then have the finger move instead. But that's not really practical because the angle of the finger goes like that. So I'm hitting one note like that and another note like that, and that just doesn't work because my nail is in the way here when I'm tapping like that. So you have to move your finger. But it's an option. But start with just the simple. And just get the experience of being able to play super lightning fast without having to spend, months on it.